Chilton. I am the radio DJ producer / youth worker here at the Island 107.1, also here at the John R. Delaney Youth Center.
I was wondering what the youth center and the radio station meant for you and your community.
It meant a great deal because, as I said a little earlier, that it was building the youth center and creating a youth center for the community Moose Factory was a long time in the making. For many years, many community members and organizations have wanted and desired a space for the youth. And there have been youth clubs and youth groups over the years, over the decades, that have had to utilize different spaces around town. But to actually have a building space for the center utilized for the youth and by the youth was an incredible accomplishment by many people over many years, and many organizations, not just Moose Cree First Nation, but Mushkegowuk Council and other groups. Mm-hmm. And the radio station was a great addition to the center as a place for youth to be, because the radio station was here a few years before the center was built, and Moose Factory and Moose Knee, both communities, responded well to the station, and everybody enjoyed the station. Mm-hmm. But then it stopped for a little while, and then our original manager brought the station back and put it under the umbrella of the youth center as not only a community radio station, but as a place for the youth to utilize as a mode of expression, as a means of expression, mm-hmm. to not only learn a skill like radio broadcasting, but also a place where they can be creative and imaginative. Yeah. At the very least, it's a safe space mm-hmm. to play, like at its very simplest, I guess, that they can come here and just have a good time, and just be kids. And because some children don't have that, at home or in their neighborhood, mm-hmm. so they can come here and play a game or just be around each other and have a safe space. For sort of larger reasons, I guess, that it's a place that where you can learn different skills and learn as people, as individuals. Like whether it's artistic skills or technical skills or just skills as a person or a human being, like coping skills and different things like that through programming through the station. But also, hopefully, in the larger picture, hopefully it's a place that youth can, it becomes a tradition, where youth can sort of pass through the station, pass through the center, and they can sort of give back to the center later, and they say down the line, like, yeah, I was a kid and I used to play there, and I used to play basketball there, and I used to utilize the center, and now my kids go there, and it's a good place for our community and for the different generations of youth.
Building off of that and the intergenerational aspect, as someone who grew up in Moose Factory and who's now raising your own a family of your own in Moose Factory, is there anything that or what do you think is kind of the biggest thing that makes kind of Moose Factory, the community, what it is? And is there anything that you've seen change over the years, or anything that's stayed the same or gotten stronger?
I guess one of the biggest things is that makes Moose Factory a unique community is that we not only are we isolated, we're an isolated community, we're an island community on a river, near a very big body of water at James Bay. Mm-hmm. But also that sort of gives us that unique flavor of being here in the north. If you're from Cochrane or Timmins, which is a little further south, you're still in the north, but you're not quite, in the north where there's that added isolation.
Yeah.
factor, where the only way out of the community is by train or plane. Another added uniqueness to our community is that we're very, there are some First Nations communities that are largely First Nation, like meaning that 80 to 90% of their community is First Nation, and it's always been First Nation. And there are community members that are teachers or health professionals or what have you that come into the community and help and live and build the community. But Moose Factory is very unique in the sense that we've always had a very strong mix of First Nation and non-First Nation, and it's been like that for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the Hudson Bay, and then of course with the hospital, Winnebago Area Health Authority.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a teaching hospital, so we always have students and health professionals coming into our community, along with teachers and other professionals who come through the community. So it's always a fairly strong mix of non-First Nation and First Nation, and it's been like that for a very, very long time. Now the changes that I've seen, in addition to those unique factors, is that we are not as isolated anymore. There's the modes of transportation are the same. You still can only get out here by boat in the summer, train and flight, plane. But also there's the added winter road now, like the Wheaton Road, which has been active for some time. So in the winter you can actually drive out of town. The internet, of course, is here in the community. So there's a strong online presence, like many northern communities, you know, like right throughout Canada. But there's a strong online presence here, like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you know, and also other organizations to have online presence. Even our radio station, you know, we stream online. So when I was a kid, you know, internet was just a dream, right? You know, it was, you know, didn't happen until I was a teenager. That was in the mid-90s, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are probably the biggest changes I've seen. That even though we've always had that strong mix of non-First Nation and First Nation, and it still exists today, that we're not as isolated, not nearly as isolated as it was in the 80s and 70s and 60s and going all the way back.
Mm-hmm. Is there a favorite thing that you have about Moose Factory as a community or as a place?
Apart from the people and family and friends and everything,
Yeah.
I would say the land. The land is really, really unique. Like it's always been like that. I've always loved. It sounds like a cliche, you know, like be out on the land, you know, love the land, but like I was born and raised here, so I am sort of a child of the muskeg, you know, and that's what this place is. We're a river community, so it's the Moose River. We live by the James Bay, so we know like the sort of the ebb and flow, literally, of the James Bay. The James Bay lowlands is a very unique place, and this is like, when they say lowlands, it really is the lowlands. Like we're only 20 feet above sea level, you know. So compared to say Cochrane or Timmins, you know, where when you take your train ride, you're literally going uphill, you know, like in elevation. So and of course, it being a subarctic region, you know, like there's the 4 seasons and the freeze up in the fall and the river breakup in the spring, you know. So all of those factors of the land and of nature and of the seasons, you know, like this, it's as challenging as they are sometimes and as difficult as they can be, and even irritating.
Like you can't get out.
Yeah, you can't get out, or it's extremely cold, like
Oh, yeah.
40 below, or extremely hot in the summer, or
Yeah.
you know, so on and so forth, right? I still, you know, love it, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it's still home, you know. Like I visit other places in Canada, and it's you know, to see, you know, like a black spruce tree. Those are the types of trees here, and for the most part, amongst other, you know, species of trees.
Mhm.
But if you see a black spruce tree somewhere else in Canada or in Ontario, you're like, oh, you know, home. You know, like you just kind of instantly go back.
Yeah.
Or if you're driving on the highway in southern Ontario and you see a little patch of bog, you know, a little
Mhm.
patch of wetland,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh my God, that's home. You know, except on a, you know, on a grand scale, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like you know, my mind instantly goes to that place, right? So I really am like a child of the Muskeg, of this place, because I was born and raised here, and it's very comforting, and it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely a place that I love, like in terms of physical location,
Yeah.
land, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty special connection.
Yeah,
Definitely,
it's I jokingly say sometimes, you know, like when I haven't gone to a lot of hot places, but you know, in southern Ontario or southern Canada, you know, I've been there in the summer months. You know, it's like, you know, I really do feel like a polar bear. You know, sometimes, you know, like it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
you know, like this is too much or something. Like, so I can't imagine. I always try to imagine myself visiting a place like in the Caribbean or, you know, a desert climate or something like that. Like, oh my God, like it really would be like a black bear being in, you know, in a whole nother, you know, or a polar bear being in a whole nother climate, right? You know,
Yeah.
a whole other place. Not to say that I don't want to visit the world or
Mhm.
other unique environments, you
Yeah.
know, like jungle or desert or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, or oceanside places, you know, like.
Yeah.
But I really am like, you know, like in many ways, like totally adapted to this place,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't say that I'm totally in tune with it, but you know, I do understand it, and I understand it's
Mhm.
how the seasons run and how it all goes and everything like that. Plus, I've lived here most of my life, you know, like apart from living in a few other locations over the years. But even then, I was still in Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, or
Oh,
Ontario.
Mhm.
yeah. Cool.